Hello coaster lovers, so I've decided to start another series. So instead of last time where I ranked the US states best coasters, I'm going to rank the best coaster in each country of Asia, and we're going to start the series off with the Middle East. So we got 10 countries in each episode, but there's only going to be 5 in the last episode, and I'm going to be including countries that I didn't even know had roller coasters. So let's start the series off with the infamous country of Yemen. There is really no other choice, but Yemen's best roller coaster is a pinfar looping cyclone named Looping Star. I've heard these types of coasters are terrible, and thank goodness there's not a whole lot left. The layout isn't that good, and the restraints are bulky and uncomfortable. I couldn't find footage of the actual coaster in Yemen, so I'm using a POV from Keensburg in New Jersey. It's basically the same thing, maybe with a different color scheme, but the next country has a small number of coasters, more than Yemen, and it's with Oman. This is north of Yemen, and their best roller coaster is an indoor coaster built by IE Park. If you're familiar with Ooredoo 5G at Lucille Winter Wonderland, it's very similar but without the loop. It is family friendly and is pretty strange, especially when the train almost varies at some points, and there are 2 lift holes as well. I've heard that IE Park is a hit or miss, but this is something else. The next country we got is one of the countries in this whole series, and it's with the United Arab Emirates. Home to the world famous Dubai, the UAE is also home to some great coasters, and I had to leave off some fantastic ones such as Formula Rosa at Fryer World, aka the world's fastest roller coaster, for now, and Manta at SeaWorld Abu Dhabi. But I decided to pick Flying Aces over those 2 Intamin launch coasters. The layout for Flying Aces is fantastic, and the closest coaster that I've ridden to compare to this is definitely a mix of Millennium Force and Maverick. You got the height of Millennium Force, and you got the transitions of Maverick, and it even features an inversion towards the end of the layout. It also used to feature the same restraints as Skyrush over at Hershey Park, but I've heard these don't crush your thighs. It was a very close call, but Flying Aces is the winner. Now let's go across the Persian Gulf into Qatar, which is the next country. Qatar is home to the city of Doha, and the best coaster in Qatar is none other than the legendary Epic Coaster at Doha Quest. This is the world's tallest indoor coaster, at a staggering height of 186 feet, and is nearly a hyper coaster. It features this backwards twisted spike to achieve that goal, and after that, you got a compact and fierce layout. There are 2 inversions, many airtime pops, and helixes. I also like the use of hexagons throughout the layout, but I will say the restraints are very tight on these premier coasters, and I can say that because I've done Icebreaker over at SeaWorld Orlando. They are not fat friendly, and if you're an overweight guest with a pretty big waist, don't expect to fit on these types of coasters. But besides that, I've heard it's pretty good, and for the closest comparison out of the coasters I've ridden, it's either Tigris or Icebreaker. The next country coming up is very similar to Qatar, and it's Bahrain. This country has one of the most underrated flags in my opinion, but the coaster quality is worse than Qatar, but at least they have a few coasters throughout the nation, and the best roller coaster in Bahrain is a Fabry spinning Wild Mouse. If you're familiar with Screamin' Demon at Castle Park in California, this is very similar, but this one is called Himalaya, and there wasn't a good quality POV that I could find, so I'm using a clone. These are very different from the Zamperla spinning mouse because the layout is more unique, and it features this weird lift system where the train climbs up one lift and then it turns and climbs up another lift. It's really strange, but I've heard these types of coasters aren't that good. The restraints really jab your stomach area, and the spinning can be pretty uncomfortable, but there's really no other option for this country. But the next one has a lot of options to choose from, and I'm referring to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is up and coming in the amusement industry, and they're opening a massive new park outside of the capital of Riyadh called Six Flags Qiddiya. This park features 8 different roller coasters, and they have a lot of standouts such as Spitfire and Iron Rattler. And if you want to hear more about that park, check out the video in the card above. But one of their coasters stands out above the rest, and it's none other than Falcon's Flight. This will be the world's tallest, fastest, and longest roller coaster whenever it opens. It features a height of 640 feet, which is only 184 feet shorter than King Dakar. And to put a perspective on how tall this thing will be, take King Dakar and add the spike of Epic Coaster on top. That's how tall Falcon's Flight is going to be. And the best part, this is not a one-trick pony. This looks like a legit good roller coaster. The top speed is 155 miles per hour, and that's 6 miles per hour faster than Formula Rosa, and the track length is nearly 14,000 feet long. That's insane. That's nearly 6,000 feet longer than Steel Dragon 2000 over at Nagashima Spa Land. And like I said earlier, if you want to know more about Six Flags Qiddiya, check out my video in the card above. So next up is a smaller country, and it was home to a pretty small park, but it did close in 2016, and I'm talking about Kuwait. This country was home to Kuwait Entertainment City, and they had 3 different roller coasters, which were a Batman clone, a small-sized Schwarzkopf, and a kiddie coaster. But the best coaster currently in Kuwait is Spinning Coaster. This is an indoor Gerstlauer spinner, so something like Fairly Odd Coaster at Nickelodeon Universe or Dubai Drone at Play DXB. You can't see much of the layout on RCDB, but my guess is a tamer version of Fairly Odd Coaster. The drop is profiled a little differently from the other spinners, and it goes through buildings as well, just like Dubai Drone. It's basically a tamer version of Dubai Drone without the Tron-esque theming. So the next country we got is northwest of Kuwait, and it's with Iraq. Iraq. This is a similar situation to Yemen, where this country is not in the best shape for right now, but at least they have a rare type of coaster model, and I'm talking about Dream Coaster. This is a clone of the defunct G-Force Override Rating Manor, and this is the only roller coaster in the world to feature a bent Cuban A element. It's basically a somewhat element connected to another element, but that's the best way I could describe it. But anyway, I heard G-Force isn't that good, so the Iraq one might be similar. So next up was one of the countries that I was surprised that had a roller coaster. It's Jordan. Jordan doesn't have much when it comes to amusement rides, but if I had to pick one, they have a Chinese knockoff air looper called Roller Coaster. What a clever name. And I'm using a POV from a similar ride, and if you search it up on RCDB, the ride doesn't even have a station, so they just pulled an Emperor down in Jordan. And it does look awful, and it also says that it operated from 2018 to 2019, so I have no idea if it's still in operation, but this is pretty much the only option. So now we have come to our last country for today, and we are ending it out with Israel. This is also another country that is not in the best condition for right now, but they do have a park called Luna Park Tel Aviv, and they have a Vekoma boomerang named Anaconda. No, not that one. There we go. I know that this is a POV of Boomerang or Worlds of Fun, but it's the same. It's your off-the-shelf Boomerang. And the same country does have another coaster called Kumba that can compete as the best coaster in Israel. No, not that Kumba. That's the Kumba I'm talking about. This is the actual equivalent to Kumba at home, and neither of these rides aren't that good. But I settled for the Boomerang because a lot of people take the Boomerang over the SLC. And that concludes episode 1 of this series. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like. And our goal for this year is to hit 700 subscribers. And I'm not begging you to subscribe, but I appreciate every single subscriber. And the second episode will be coming out in the next 5 days, and we're highlighting Central Asia and countries such as Turkey and Russia, so stay tuned for that, and make sure to keep that adrenaline pumping, and thanks for watching.